Here we go. Boom.
I just saw Kevin Durant tested positive.
Wow. Oh. Good first line of the live. Yeah. All right. We're here. Hi everybody. Welcome to the live.
Yeah, this is a informal chat that we're trying to do like every couple days between people that work in science communication, mostly to help keep our spirits up during this time, but also to just give people access to a lot of cool science stories beyond what they're hearing in the news right now about COVID. And we have like a wide assortment of people joining us today. My name's Kishore, and I'll be helping keep this on track. And by on track, I mean doing the important things, which is celebrating St. Patrick's Day. Hey, welcome, Phil.
Hi, sorry about that. Got held up a minute.
No, you're fine. We're live on YouTube, so I would say watch your language, but I would never say that to you, Phil.
Sound's not visible, right? You can't really. Your first science lesson for today, folks.
And Adam's just about here.
Hello?
Adam, we can hear you, but we can't see you yet.
You can't see me. Hold on.
Can you see me? We can see you.
Hi.
Everyone's here. So we're live on YouTube. And what I want to say is like the whole point of this is just to have a fun happy hour chat between people that work in science communication. We're going to talk about some of the issues of the day, but mostly focus on fun stories outside the world of COVID that we're hearing, and have some silly times. It's St. Patrick's Day. And I think, are we all wearing green? Adam Becker, are you wearing green?
I am wearing green under the sweater. It's
Yay!
Yay!
Because I couldn't go out to a bar today for a terrible green beer, I made one at home.
Oh my God.
That's awesome.
So this is going to be probably terrible, but cheers to everyone for joining us. I thought where we could start is doing a quick whip around of introductions.
Who wants to start? I'll start since I started talking. I'm Trace. This is my channel. You probably know who I am. That's where we're broadcasting live, youtube.com/Trace Dominguez. I make science videos, have for about 10 years now, formerly with Discovery Channel, D News, Seeker, and the Science Channel. And now here, and also I host a show called PBS Stargazers on PBS, usually late at night, about naked eye astronomy.
Nice.
Ashley, why don't you go next?
All right. I'm Ashley Hamer. I'm the managing editor and co-host of Curiosity Daily podcast, which is a 5-day-a-week podcast that's just about 10 minutes. And we talk about different cool stuff in science. And I am now newly an employee of Discovery because we just got picked up by them. So, yeah.
Congratulations.
Thanks.
Bill, I think you're up.
Oh, hey, I'm Phil Plait, aka the Bad Astronomer. I write the Bad Astronomy blog, currently at sci-fi.com. And I'm an astronomer, science communicator, gadfly, man about town. And I will add, I'm not wearing green. This is technically blue because I don't want to be accused of cultural appropriation. So I'm really super not Irish. But happy St. Patrick's Day for those of you who do celebrate it.
Great.
I think we have Adam's left.
Yeah, I think so. Hi, I'm Adam Becker. Yeah, I'm an astrophysicist by training and a science writer by trade. I am the author of the book that Kishore is holding up right now, What is Real? The Unfinished Quest for the Meaning of Quantum Physics. And yeah, I mostly write about science and talk about science whenever anybody gives me the excuse to do it.
Awesome. Thanks for everyone for being here. I'm going to ask a couple questions first about the current situation and how you're all managing. How is working from home going for you right now? I'm going to start with Phil because I think Phil's been working from home ever since I've known Phil.
For 12 years, yeah. So here I am. It's another day. I've been thinking about this. I actually wrote a little bit about this in my newsletter. badastronomy.substack.com. And I've been seeing a lot of advice for people about what to do when they work from home if you've never done it before. And my advice is just, test things out. Don't just say, I'm going to do it this way, because that may not work, right? So try different things, see what works best for you. That's what I've done. I worked in an office for many years, and it wasn't until I started working from home that I realized that I hated working in an office. So this has been great for me. And so that's why I can't give any specific advice, because, this works really well for me. So I can't say, wear a tie every day, or, don't, or whatever. So I guess after all that, what I'm telling you is that, this isn't that different for me. It's just that, I have some older folks nearby, and like everybody else, the support system is very difficult. But other than that, working from home is just what I've been doing. So this isn't that big of a change.
Ashley, Adam, how are you coping with working from home?
I mean, I often work from home. I do rent a desk in an office space, and I haven't been going in, and that's a little annoying. But what's been the bigger shift is my wife has been working from home since almost a week and a half now. And so learning to share the space with my wife during the day has been an interesting journey. Our pet rabbit is super pumped that we're home all the time now, though.
Yeah, my experience is pretty similar. I have a pretty flexible work environment where I can work. I work from home some days. I go into the office some days, but my boyfriend works from home like all the time. So what I used to do is, like, when I was working from home, I would work in the dining area, and then if his calls got me distracted, I would go to a coffee shop. But now it's like, oh no, this is for real. Like, I got to be here forever. So I actually got a desk. It's in my bedroom now. And I've set up this podcast thing, and it's like, the cat is pumped, just like Adam's rabbit. She's really talkative, and she loves to join in when I'm talking, which is really good for podcast recording. Yeah, that's been my experience.
I just started working from home a year ago. And so I'm really happy that I finally set up all my desk and stuff last month, when I could still go outside and buy things that I needed.
So we're all practicing social distancing. And we were talking before we went live, Ashley, Trace, and I, about how we feel about that term, social distancing. Is it actually a good term to describe what we're doing? And the reason I bring it up is I got into this conversation on Twitter with a bunch of social science researchers, all trying to come up with their different names for what it is. So before I put out to you, the science communicator professionals, some of their suggestions, I want to ask, like, what do you think about just the term social distancing before we get into like any details?
It has too many syllables.
Yeah, it doesn't roll off the tongue.
Yeah.
True.
Gotta stay home. Staying home.
So there's three different suggestions from the social science researchers: are stay home, stay the F home, stay the effing F home.
Yes. There we go.
That's not to be used as a verb, is it? Like suggestion for what you should be doing at home? It's just stay at home. Because this isn't that much different, I've been sort of watching the usual shows, and we decided it's like, to make this a little different, to feel it a little bit different. We watched Contagion, which is a movie that came out almost 10 years ago now.
The Steven Soderbergh movie?
What's that?
The Steven Soderbergh movie, the one with
Yes.
Matt Damon and Gwyneth Paltrow. And
that's right. 2011, I think.
Yeah.
And I mean, of course, it's one of the better science-based, social-based, reality-based movies, in that the way things propagate and the way things work is relatively real, except that the virus in that movie is extremely has a much higher fatality rate than this one. But I was interested to see that they use the term social distancing. It was only used once. They were talking to a guy from, it was Lawrence Fishburne, I think, from the CDC. And he says, we needed blah, 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 social distancing, blah, blah, blah. And I thought, oh, wow, I didn't realize that term was that old. Obviously, they must have taken it from something maybe in the CDC's list of things you should do. But, I don't think it's a great term just because it doesn't roll off the tongue, and we're physically distancing each other. I mean, most of us are heavily online anyway. Folks who are watching this, I think, are going to be preferentially online a lot, and we're not socially distancing at all. Look at this. There's 5 of us together doing, this is the most people I've seen in a while. All at once. So for me, this is actually less social. This is social closening. Would be.
I kind of like it just because I think for one thing, it's important to have a term that isn't stay home or something that we've used in the past, because those all come with connotations of being like a hermit and not having friends. And like, this is sort of like, even if you're an extrovert, even if you go to the bars every night, like you're doing this special thing for this special case. And I don't know, maybe there's a better new term to come up with, but I don't know. I kind of like it. It has the word, so like, I know technically the word means distancing yourself from social situations, but to me it sounds like, oh, we're social and we're distant. Ooh.
I just picture like, Kishore, didn't you bring this up last time? Somebody who cosplayed with just like a disc around themselves.
There was somebody in Italy that
around.
made a 6-foot disc.
Yeah, I saw that video.
Yeah, but I used to work at a historic site, so all of the women who had to, whenever we did reenactments or work with like Civil War, were wearing hoop skirts. Essentially, they were social distancing all the time. So it's, it's common. It's not that unusual for some of us. Although Contagion reminds me, I went on a date to that movie. We did not have another date after that.
Yeah.
We like saw the movie, we went to the subway, and she was like, bye. And I was like, bye.
You don't think Subway had something to do with that?
No, not the restaurant. The train.
Yeah. A date with Trace is going to see, a movie about a contagion and then getting a long sandwich.
They're getting a $5 footlong. Two for one though, right? Two for $2.
Exactly.
Was it a first date?
It was a third date.
Okay, good.
Oh,
yeah.
Wow.
And then we were both like, farewell, and we never saw each other again.
I am curious, is anyone seeing in their networks, either like friends, family, or even online, people that are really resistant to this idea of social distancing? Because most of my scientist friends, most of the people I interact with work, they're all in. They're like, the experts are saying this, we got to do this. They like understand what's going on. But I also feel like a sentiment online that there's a lot of people struggling with the idea. Are you seeing that as well? And how do you talk to those people if you are interacting with them at all?
Yeah. My wife's brother is not taking this seriously, and he has serious health problems, and he really should be taking this very seriously. But not to put too fine a point on it, he gets most of his news from Fox News and similar outlets like that. And so he is just not taking this seriously at all, which is interesting because he's a scientist. He's a physicist. And but he thinks that he knows more about this than epidemiologists. I'm a physicist. I don't know more about this than epidemiologists. So yeah, I don't know. I don't really know how to get through to him. I mean, he's not going to see this, presumably, but yeah, I mean, I know that the best research on how to persuade people who are denying scientific facts involves, getting the message to them through people that they see as sort of part of their in-group. And I mean, he's my brother-in-law. I love him and we get along well, but he does not see me as part of his in-group when it comes to, reliable information about the world. And so I'm sort of at a loss, and my wife is at a loss about, what do we do?
Yeah, that can be tough. I mean, there's a lot of misinformation out there, I think we all know, but at the same time, the one of the best videos that I remember watching on how to convince people to find correct information, right? Not to say I am right and you are wrong, but is to just ask questions. And I feel like anybody who, especially somebody science-minded, one would hope that you could ask questions. Oh, I think this is all a hoax. Why do you think that? I think it's all a hoax because I heard about it on the news. Oh, yeah. Okay, well, what are they saying on the news? Literally just they will slowly find the holes in the argument because you're just asking them questions and there's no information there. There's a big gap, and they'll fill that information hopefully with reality, I guess.
Yeah. I don't know. It's tough. It's tough. It's just not clear what to do. Yeah. And I also think like it's difficult for people in part because it's sort of like, it's like the life insurance salesman problem, right? Everyone knows that at some point it would probably be good for them to have life insurance, but nobody wants to think about, dying. Yeah.
I'm struggling with it with my parents who are both in their mid 80s. They're highly at risk. And they see this as a loss of autonomy in their life, like being, and like, that's like a big deal for them at this point. So having conversations with them has been such a struggle. First of all, it feels like I'm the parent and they're the teenager that's trying to sneak out at night, which is just a hilarious flip on our relationship. But it's also like, I have really tried a lot of different methods to sort of get through. And where I come around is like the suddenness of this, of how we went from the initial inklings of this happening, especially in a popular consciousness, to where we are now feels really sudden for a lot of people. And they're going to, and like, we have to be okay with people struggling to wrap their mind around this without sort of getting away from, hey, this is important. So I actually like, at least, for my parents who are not actively, putting out misinformation, actually, I have a lot of empathy for that loss of autonomy. And like, I think there's a lot of those different effects going on out there when people are making choices around this. And I think the one lesson I'm starting to walk away with is for us to not be as judgmental about it right now, because that's going to hurt us down the line. I don't know. I don't know, Phil, Ashley, if you feel the same way at all.
I've been having kind of a different experience. My parents are both totally on board with it, which I'm really happy about. My siblings are too. The thing I'm seeing a little bit is people my age. Like I'm taking improv classes right now, and the school has postponed all classes for 2 weeks. And immediately in the group chat, people were like, "You guys want to get together at my apartment?" It's like, no, that's not the point. And we should not. Exactly. And so it's been important for me to push past my my feeling of like not looking cool or or something, to be like, I'm going to sit out because I am social distancing and I'm taking it very seriously, and like just being super like straightforward with it to let the other people who are on the fence also realize that they're not alone. And then maybe everybody will come around. And sure enough, I mean, it wasn't just me, it was also the rising crisis, but they have eventually changed their mind and they're not going to meet at anyone's apartment anymore.
That's good. I mean, I don't know. I always thought that following all of the rules and staying at home was an extremely cool thing to do.
Phil, I wanted to ask you, you've been fighting misinformation online for about as long as anyone I've ever known. Are you seeing like something different about what we're seeing now versus what you've been sort of working against for a decade plus?
How political can I be here?
You're you. So
I will preface this with a caveat that I actually tweeted a chart today that compared the symptoms of COVID-19 with the flu and the cold, because it said it was from the World Health Organization and the CDC, and the sort of the sneezing, runny nose, coughing, fever check marks matched what I had seen in other places, kind of, sort of. I retweeted it, and then somebody said, "Yeah, that's baloney." It turns out, no, that's just something somebody made up and put out there. And I was like, "Oh crap!" So, and I looked at it. Sure enough, yeah, the imprimatur of that thing was not correct. So I deleted it and apologized. Or did I? Oh gosh, did I apologize? That a bunch of things happened at once today. If you're following me on Twitter, I'm sorry I posted that earlier. So it's very easy, right, to simply see something online, and if it jibes with what you think, to retweet it, to put it, regram it or whatever on all the social media. It's not it's not necessarily somebody just going, that sounds like what I'm going to do, what I think I'm going to do. It's not like that. It's not just that it matches what you think. Is that if that I've seen things that I know are legit, and this looks like that. There's a little replacement in your brain that can happen. So it's not just spreading some false tweet that maybe the president put out, and so there's that, and I think there's more of it online now because everybody's participating in it right now. My Twitter feed, which is normally a lot of people complaining about politics, is now everybody talking about either this pandemic or the White House's fumbling of this entire thing. And so you're going to get more of this. And I hate to say stuff like that goes viral, but that's what happens. And so people just wind up doing it with more people involved. That just makes it even worse.
I wanted to ask, where are people going for their information right now amidst like an environment where we are at 9 a.m. is different than where we are at 5 p.m., or at least that's how it feels to me?
I'm actually trying to limit how often I check in about it, because otherwise I go nuts. I mean, I spent the early part of last week just sort of spending way too much time looking at Twitter and like following various links. And then I realized, no, this is that not only am I not getting any work done and I have work to do, but also like I feel physically worse. Like I feel like it's affecting my mental state so much, it's affecting my body. So at this point, I'm sort of checking in once in the morning with like the New York Times and the San Francisco Chronicle, and then once in the evening with both of those and maybe also the Washington Post. And it's super boring, but also I trust the people who work at those organizations to at least get this right.
I mean, yeah, the healthier way to do it is to seek out that information instead of letting it come to you via Twitter, which is not what I'm doing. I'm letting Twitter just come to me, and I need to stop. I need to do it what Adam's doing. We actually, we're about to run a story about a study that was done on during the Zika outbreaks, and they surveyed people on how they sought out information and what made them seek out information and how they felt about it. And it turned out that because Zika is really, they didn't know a lot about it, just like COVID. And it turns out that the people who believed they had a high level of knowledge about Zika also felt that they needed to know a lot more about Zika. And it's just this cycle where nobody knows anything. So you just keep trying to fix that uncertainty, and you're never going to, because it's just an uncertain situation. I'm totally in that moment right now.
I feel like that's one of those things where you can identify with the character in the movie that is that exact character, right? Where they're like, I need to learn everything. And then they just like start typing on the computer and they're like, now I've learned it all. And it's like, that's not going to happen. You can't, not all physicists are computer hackers, and not all doctors are also space pilots.
On the other hand,
it's not going to happen.
But on the other hand, like that's exactly what we're used to doing when we do research for a story, right?
Yeah.
Like we're used to saying, oh, okay, so today I need to be an expert in looks like atmospheric effects at the edge of space, and tomorrow it looks like I need to be an expert in biology of wombats. So yeah, and then just do all the research. So I think we're as science communicators used to doing a lot of research and trying to become temporary experts in a subject, and it's hard to resist that.
But the motivation's different, I think. You're being driven by a deadline or intellectual curiosity, and in this case, I think there's a lot of overlap with anxiety.
Yes,
and anxiety is like running around on a Mobius strip. It's this self-feeding thing that can spiral out of control. And I agree with you. In fact, that looking on Twitter is not helping my psyche right now. And there is especially with these tweets that they say something like, well, that figures. And then there's a link to somebody's Twitter feed where I'm like, I know they're talking about Trump. I know they're talking about this or that or the other thing, or Fox News or something. It's like, I absolutely will not click that because I do not need more of this in my life. but I'm guilty of it too. You know, when there's something that is so egregious, which, you know, every day now, I feel like I have to say something. And I have to talk myself out of it. A couple of times today, it's like, yeah, no, I'm not going to do this. Here's a picture of a globular cluster from Hubble. And that will make everybody's day better instead of making things worse.
And we're going to be in that cycle probably for a while, because this is not something that's going to end tomorrow. And we know that as people are more confined and like more anxiety builds up until we see light at the end of the tunnel, it's going to be this. That's how it's going to feel. And I've been trying to come to terms with that. And like, I've been having the same problems with Twitter that everyone mentioned. I've started really going directly to some scientists as sources of information, not because I think they're better sources of information than journalists or writers. It's that I've noticed that a number of scientists, especially ones that work in epidemiology, have been a little bit like more calm in their like tone about this, that I find personally soothing. And their information's not different than the journalists. It's not, well, it is different than what the politicians are saying, but that's a different story entirely. But I find it very useful. So like Trevor Bedford, who worked on Nextstrain, and he works with the Seattle flu study, who really like called out a lot of this early stuff, really puts out these like lengthy, thoughtful threads and blog posts that I find the knowledge comforting, but not alarming. And I think we all have to find that information ecosystem that we can manage that anxiety, because I can't live like this for months. I like can't be on Twitter chasing every study. And I think that's true for a lot of people. I want to get us away from COVID, because it's not the only science story happening in the world. So I want to turn it over to all of you. Is there a science story that kind of has caught your eye in recent times that you want to talk about? How about Phil? We start with you.
No, nothing.
Cool.
Yeah, science just stopped.
Yeah, where science is on hold. It's science distancing. I see. You can't even say that. It doesn't. Science distancing. Yeah. Well, there have been a lot of stories in astronomy. There are every day, or else I wouldn't have a job. But in fact, I think the big story still is the star Betelgeuse, this red supergiant on Orion's shoulder. I know that Trace did a great video, an interview with Emily Levesque, right?
With Serafina. It was really fun.
Oh, excuse me, Serafina. Yes, yeah. And it was that led me to talk to Serafina Nance about something, and then she said Emily studies it, and then Emily had just written a paper about that. That's right. I had the chain of events wrong. Betelgeuse is normally one of the brightest stars in the sky, roughly the 11th. And we've known it's a variable star. It gets brighter and dimmer over time, about 12 months, 13, 14 months, something like that. But it started getting super dim in late last year, to the point where if you even had a passing familiarity with the sky, you'd go out and look at it and go, oh God, it's really dim. On top of that, Betelgeuse is that's like one of maybe 3 stars people can name. The Sun and Polaris would be the other 2. And there was a movie with that name, and a lot of people are also.
How many times have you said the name of the star now?
So everybody was freaking out that it was going to go supernova. And so basically, any time I tweeted about Betelgeuse, I had to immediately say, this has nothing to do with the fact that it is going to explode one day, probably in 100,000 years, but not today. And we didn't know why it was dimming for a while, but then Emily Levesque, who is an astronomer, and she's on Twitter, wrote a paper with a colleague, Phil Massey, saying that Betelgeuse, as a red supergiant, sometimes erupts huge clouds of dust. And we've known this for a while. We have images of this stuff. But in this case, they think that it may be the culprit. And these are basically big grains of stuff, silicates, rocky material. And it blocked part of the star. And that's why when it dimmed, it really dimmed. That cloud is expanding and getting thin. And in the meantime, on its normal cycle, Betelgeuse is starting to get bright again. It's already back to 50% of its normal brightness, when it was down to about a third of its normal brightness a few weeks ago. And just the other night, when the last clear night we had here in Colorado about 3 days ago, I went out and looked at it, and it's like, yeah, it's starting to look better. It's got a long way to go, but it's already clearly by eye getting bright again. So this is a pretty interesting story. It had a lot of public, it had a pretty good foothold in the public, and it's something you can go out and see for yourself, which I also thought was pretty cool.
So one thing you mentioned, you said it's this kind of like rocky, like dust stuff. Is that common to have that kind of dust around stars, or is this something unique to this type of star? Because when I think about the sun, I don't think about anything except, you know, hydrogen, and then maybe some like denser stuff at the core.
Well, the difference between the sun and Betelgeuse is large. Literally, in that Betelgeuse is like 1,000 times the size, hundreds and hundreds of times the size of the sun. It's this enormous star. It also has, actually, I'm not sure what the current estimates are of its total mass right now. It was probably born about 20 times the mass of the sun and has lost a lot of this material, and it's down a lot less now, and it will eventually explode as a supernova. But these red supergiants, they behave very, very differently. The physics that's going on inside of these stars is different. And so you get these gigantic convection cells, this hot material inside rising and cooling and falling back down. If you look at the sun, there are thousands of these things. You see these little granules, these little regions that are about the size of Texas, maybe, and it's gas moving up and down all over the sun. Betelgeuse might have 3 of those. These things are enormously huge. And so the physics going on inside of it is different. And it pulsates. The star itself is getting bigger and smaller. That's what's driving the brightness change usually. And also there are waves of material moving through the star. And that's what can generate this dust. It's silicates based on silicon. Sometimes it's carbon. These red supergiants blow out a lot of carbon, and that's very dark. I mean, it makes soot. And so these stars, we even have a kind of star called carbon stars. These are also these red giant stars that are blowing out this material. So yeah, they're very different than the sun. And it's a very common thing with red supergiants like Betelgeuse to create clouds like that. To make a short story long, as usual for me.
So be honest, were you rooting for a supernova though, even though you thought it was unlikely?
Sure. I mean, who doesn't want to see one? I've seen 4 by eye through a telescope in my life.
You've seen 4 supernovas?
That's amazing.
That is
well, they're out there. You just gotta look for them.
So,
I mean, sometimes you need. I saw one through a big telescope once, but even I have a small. I wish I could pull it out. I've got a small telescope, an 8-inch, and that's enough. You know, when there's a bright one that comes up in some nearby galaxy, a lot of times that's all you need on a dark site. So, I have friends who have seen dozens, and I know a lot of astronomers who haven't seen any. And I studied one for my PhD. So, it took me a long time before I finally saw one. That was very exciting. But yeah, I mean, Betelgeuse exploding, that would be amazing. There's so much we would learn from that. And I often think about that. It's like, how would we use our big telescopes to do this? It would be so bright, it would blow out the detectors. So, people would have to really think about how they would do that. But yeah, that would be awesome. And it's far enough away that it wouldn't hurt us. So that would be cool as well. We'd get a lot of interesting information out of this thing.
I just love that it would be visible during the day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And cast shadows at night.
It'd be much brighter than Venus. And Venus isn't that hard to spot during the day if you know where to look.
Yeah. I just love that. It makes, I think astronomy is the funny thing about doing this astronomy show now. Like I was interested in astronomy. I've actually never, as an adult, looked through a telescope. With my eyeball. I've only ever gone to telescopes and seen computer screens and images and things, but I've always wanted to go to a big telescope.
Grace, we're going to solve that. Yeah. We can't let that stand.
Yeah, wait, Trace, where are you based?
Where are you located in general?
I'm in Los Angeles.
Okay, we can fix this.
There are places to go in LA to observe. There is the Griffith Observatory, for example.
Yeah.
There are a lot of amateur, astronomy clubs, societies out there. You can go online and search, where is there an astronomy society near me or astronomy club near me? And you can find places where they will go and they will have monthly get-togethers. Not recommended at the moment. But
Yeah.
you know, it is something that a lot of people go out and do, and you can see all kinds of stuff. I cannot strongly enough recommend doing something like this once this epidemic is gone, because once you see Saturn through a telescope, it will change your life.
How much would a backyard telescope cost you?
$400,000 or $500,000, not a big deal. No, you can. There's one called the One Sky Telescope by Astronomers Without Borders that sells for $200. This is literally a tabletop telescope, very easy to use. Doesn't magnify the image much, but it's great for like the moon and big things.
Yeah.
And you know, or you can spend up to how much money you got, kind of a thing. But
Sure.
on average, for a few $100s up to a couple of grand, you can get yourself a very nice telescope.
I mean, that seems like a great hobby to get into right now. Like just drive out into the wilderness.
Go somewhere alone and look at the sky.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, yes and no. It's kind of good to have somebody along to show you how to do this kind of stuff, because there's a bit of a steep learning curve. But once you got it, yeah, I've spent, I don't even know how many, I was going to say hundreds, probably thousands of hours under the sky by myself with a scope or just binoculars. You have a pair of binoculars, that's all you need.
Yeah.
Phil, do you still have like a FAQ about buying a telescope up somewhere? I remember you used to have an old one.
Yeah, I wrote it for Christmas, the holiday season, 2015. But I updated it recently, but there's not much changed. It's basically just binoculars first, seek out societies and look at their telescopes. It's like buying a car. People say, "What kind of telescope should I get?" And it's like, if you ask me, "What kind of car should I get?" It's like, well, what do you need? Do you want gas mileage? You want to haul stuff? There's a lot of different choices. You got to know what you're doing first. But it's not that hard to read up and say, I just want to look at the moon and the planets. It's like, okay, then you want this. And you can find that on my website. If you just do.
I linked it in the chat too.
Awesome. Oh, see it right there.
Yeah.
Adam, so we're talking about the universe. So take us farther. Take us to the edge of the universe, maybe.
Well, so speaking of supernova, they can be as bright as an entire galaxy combined, which is why you can see them from so far away. And it turns out that, they gave us evidence, very distant supernova gave us evidence a long time ago of, not that long ago, in the late 90s of the fact that the expansion of the universe is actually accelerating. The universe is expanding faster and faster. But lately, in the last few years, there's been this debate going on. These cosmologists have sort of split into camps over how fast the universe is expanding, because it turns out that with one set of evidence, supernova and other evidence from the universe as it is now, it looks like the universe is expanding faster than we would think based on older evidence, like the oldest light in the universe would tell us the universe is expanding. And so this disagreement, at first, people thought, it's not that big of a disagreement. One group says that, the Hubble constant, the number describing how fast the universe expands. One group says it's 67. The other one says it's 73. That's not that far apart, but they started working on it and like getting the error bars smaller and smaller. And they found, okay, one group is saying 67 plus or minus 1. And the other one's saying 73 plus or minus 1 or thereabouts. And so they're not matching up. And so the question is, okay, so either someone's made a mistake or there's some physics going on that we don't understand. And this is really exciting because, ever since we discovered that the universe was expanding faster and faster back in the late 90s, we've had this sort of standard model of cosmology, this thing called the lambda CDM model, which basically says, this is how the universe works, and we think we understand it. But this points to, there could be something wrong with that model, which would be the first time that somebody found like a serious problem with that model in 20 years, more.
Physicists are always way too excited about being wrong. More so than almost any other scientist. I went to CERN a few years ago, and everyone there was like, we gotta prove the standard model wrong. Everything, they were so excited about it. Did that come naturally? Like, as somebody that did a PhD in this field, did you feel like I had to learn to accept that, or was that just like something you already had when you got there?
That's a good question. I'm not sure I really thought about it that way. Because take the standard model of particle physics, right? We know that it's wrong. We already know that it has to be wrong because there's nothing in there that could be dark matter. And we know that dark matter has to be like a different kind of particle. It doesn't account for dark energy. And most importantly, it doesn't account for gravity. So we know like it can't be the whole story. So we already know like, okay, that can't be it. So if we don't figure out how we're wrong, then we can't move forward and find the next thing. I mean, if it worked great, maybe we'd think differently about it. I mean, I still think there's this, I don't know, natural human impulse to try to contribute something new, right? So even if it did work great, maybe we'd try to see if there was something wrong with it anyway. But we know it doesn't work. We know that that's not complete. And we know the same thing is true about the cosmological standard model. Like it may be correct as far as it goes, but it doesn't tell us everything. We don't know what happened in the extremely early universe right around the Big Bang. And so there's more to the picture that we need to learn. And if we don't see where we've gone wrong, we won't learn those things. So yeah.
When you say early universe, 10 to the minus what? Seconds.
10 to the minus 30 something.
Oh, okay. That early.
Yeah.
I really like being early to things, like 10 to the minus 30 seconds.
There's one question in the chat about this is, do we have an understanding based on the expansion of where the center of the universe is? Or is that even an idea that makes sense given how the universe is shaped?
Yeah, so this is a great question. And the answer is the center is everywhere.
Oh, of course.
Yeah, there is no center to the expansion. So one analogy that you'll hear people talk about when they talk about like the expansion of the universe and the Big Bang is, you'll hear people say, oh, well, it's like a balloon, or like Futurama says, it's a balloon and then something bad happens. But like it's you put a bunch of dots on the balloon and then you blow up the balloon and the dots get farther apart from each other. That is a reasonable analogy, but that also makes it seem like, oh, there's a center, right? Because there's a middle to the balloon. But in that analogy, we're like the surface of the balloon. So asking where the center of the universe is like asking where's the center of the surface of the balloon. The surface of the balloon doesn't have a center.
Physics is hard.
I accept everything you said, except the idea that Futurama could potentially be wrong about science.
Oh, Futurama is absolutely correct with everything that it says. Especially about quantum physics. There's that. I actually quoted Futurama in my book because there's a part in Futurama where the professor says, as Deepak Chopra taught us, quantum physics means that anything can happen at any time for any reason.
But Adam, do you have a better metaphor than the balloon or like the raisin bread? I've heard that one too.
Yeah, the raisin bread.
Yeah.
Raisin bread's
I was
not
thinking
good.
of that.
It's
First
like,
of all,
who knows?
no one eats raisin bread
Right.
anymore. So
No.
let's throw that one out.
And it's a worse analogy because there is a center to the raisin.
Exactly. Yeah.
Right.
No.
Yeah.
The balloon is actually a better analogy. I'm not sure that I have a better analogy than the balloon.
Because it's just not like anything that we experience. It's
Yeah.
just
Well, I mean,
hard to wrap your head around.
well, the issue is that the surface of the balloon is two-dimensional and we live in three-dimensional space. So yeah, all you really have to do is imagine a four-dimensional balloon with a three-dimensional surface, right?
Perfect.
Easy. Yeah.
Do we assume a sphere with that, or are we just like?
Get out of Newtonian physics, Trace.
Yeah. No, I don't. I honestly, I don't have to hand a better analogy. It's a good question, though. I should think about that. Yeah,
You should.
I should.
All right.
You
All right,
should.
Ashley, you're up. Do you have a story that kind of caught your eye?
All right. Well, it's not really a story. It's just sort of science advice for people who are cooking at home for the first time, since we're all stuck at home and we are getting groceries at healthy times of the day and then cooking them. One thing that I think I was really kind of nervous about, which is funny because I've actually written an article about this and I had to remind myself that this is true. I was worried like, with all this buying enough groceries for like 2 weeks. And so everybody's getting non-perishable food. And I eat a lot of fresh vegetables. And I was kind of thinking like, I'm not going to get those vitamins. Like I need to have fresh vegetables in my diet. And then I remembered that frozen and canned vegetables often have as many or more nutrients than fresh produce. And that's because when fresh produce is picked, it's usually picked when it's not ripe. So those nutrients haven't had time to like develop. And as soon as you take that produce off the vine or the tree or whatever, it starts to degrade. It starts to kind of eat itself and consume its own nutrients. And so by the time, it gets to it, like after weeks, sometimes to get to the store, it's not as healthy for you. It just doesn't have as many vitamins. And versus canned food, it's usually put in the can or frozen like right when it's ripe, and it's basically like the best you can get. So don't worry if you're buying frozen or canned food. And I know one thing that maybe people are worried about is like when you do that, you expose it to temperature fluctuations, and that can kind of break down the vitamins. But actually there are some, it depends on the fruit or vegetable, but a lot of them can actually have more, like sometimes that processing can actually bring out more nutrients. Like antioxidants, like polyphenols, they hardly degrade at all in the freezing and canning process. The only thing that you really need to worry about is vitamin C that degrades in heat really well.
We're headed for scurvy. Everyone.
Yeah.
Is polyphenol good?
Yes.
Is that a thing we need? It doesn't sound like it. Okay.
It's an
I'm more of a
antioxidant. Everybody
monophenol
likes
guy
those.
myself. But,
So Ashley, you can't talk about food and humble brag that you eat a lot of vegetables with this group without talking about what are you actually making with some of your canned stuff.
Well, so I haven't actually done the canned thing yet. I'm still like, I bought a lot of fresh veggies. We have a grocery store really close to us, and so far we've just been going every few days. I'm trying to go less though. It's like it's still a habit that I'm building. But what I'm planning to do is buy some of those mixed frozen veggies, like the stir fry mixes. Also, I've been asking my sister is vegan. And so, and she's going and getting, she lives with a bunch of animal rights activists. Like she's in a commune kind of situation. So they like really are planning for this, and, she's doing a lot of curry. So you can do, you get the coconut milk and the curry paste, and then some frozen veggies, and you've got yourself a good meal that, you don't, it doesn't go bad.
I have a stupid question. You said that if you get fresh fruit or fresh vegetables or fresh produce, it's been picked before it's ripe, and then it consumes a lot of those nutrients sort of on its way to you, on its way to the store and whatnot. That makes it sound like the food is still alive. I think of produce as being dead. Is it alive or dead?
Also, we're getting a lot of insight on how a physicist views like the produce aisle. Everything here is dead.
It's not dead though.
I mean, it's still got its little processes going on. Actually, that's the same reason that like meat goes bad, is because it's got chemical reactions happening in the flesh that keep happening. And that's why you have to put it in the fridge to keep those chemical reactions, the Arrhenius equation.
Well,
you got to slow down those chemical reactions.
I thought I was putting meat in the fridge to keep other things like microscopic, organisms from eating the meat.
Well, that too.
Slows those down too.
I know nothing about food.
It's actually kind of cool. That's the reason that chicken doesn't smell as fast as fish, because fish is already cold-blooded. So when you put it in the fridge, it doesn't slow down those chemical reactions as much. So and they also produce a lot more of those stinky compounds, which is like TMA, trimethylamine. Fish make more of that than chicken do. So that's why they smell fishy.
Wait, hold on. Trimethylamine. Isn't methylamine something from Breaking Bad? You can't
probably.
Therefore, yeah.
That's awesome. I love food sciencey stuff.
Yeah, me too.
So great, because it's like
I'm more curious. I'm sorry.
No, I was just gonna say it's like it's a science lab in our house.
Totally.
It's the best.
My advice for people who are at home cooking for the first time is just marry a fabulous cook. That's what I did. The problem is
That's
I
good.
depend on her, and so that's worse. I mean, in some cases, she doesn't want to cook, and I have to wind up eating cereal, which I love. But I'm actually curious, Ashley, about your sisters on a commune. Are they distancing themselves? How do they do that?
Well,
Do you have any idea?
I'm not sure how it's working. She lives in the middle of Berkeley, California. So she's around a lot of people.
Yeah.
And I know that they've definitely had scares with like, unvaccinated, like measles outbreaks and things like that among them. But so far, I mean, my sister's smart. She believes in science. And I think that she's taking the right precautions, no matter what she's doing. But yeah, I'm not really sure how they're staying away from each other.
Yikes.
It's one of the things I've been thinking of is like, I have my own situation here. That's what we were talking about earlier, but I don't necessarily know everybody else's situation. When somebody tells me, I have this problem, and it's like, oh, I hadn't really thought of that. It may not be very common, but it's still something this person has to go through. So I've been spending the past few days thinking about that sort of thing a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
before
think
we started, Ashley was saying that she has to podcast and she didn't have a microphone. So she had to bring this one from home, which involves going across town, I imagine, getting to work. Like if you think of it like, not to bring it kind of doomy and gloomy, but more to lighten it a little bit. Think of it like a zombie apocalypse video game. She has to avoid all the way and like take the safest routes and get, if you're really taking it seriously, I've been thinking about that a lot too, Phil. It's just how everybody has these different situations that they all have to deal with. And people who can't work right now, how are they, like if they work to make money and only make it, they don't have a salary, for example, like that can be really tough for people. It's been a really interesting time.
Yeah, I was having a conversation with some people at work. Like, we're deeply concerned about what that means for like a homeless population out here in San Francisco, what it means for prison populations right now, where they have very confined spaces. And that was an ongoing concern, a month ago in China, in terms of some potential outbreaks. I think what you're talking about is like stepping into the shoes of people couldn't be more important right now.
Right.
All right, Trace, take us home. Do you have one last story for us?
A little happiness. So I made a video over the holiday break that I think really applies now, about hygge, hygge, also known as the sign, like as coziness. Its definition is really awesome. It's a quality of coziness and comfortable conviviality that engenders a feeling of contentment or well-being. It's regarded as a defining characteristic of Danish culture. So when you think of like a Northern European cozy cabin in the snow with like a fire, like wooden table, like maybe a platter, like a blankie, that kind of thing. So we associate with all those things. But I did this video about it. And I got to talk to this woman named Rebecca. She works at the Happiness Research Institute, where they're
what now?
The Happiness Research Institute. It was awesome. She was so great. And she said my pronunciation was okay, which I think she was being nice. Hygge. I don't know. But yeah, it was really cool because it talked about, I'd not seen a science of this before, but you see it a lot in things like every design magazine in the winter is just like a picture that they think of as hygge every time. It's just like lots of chunky blankets and like wooden stuff. And like Instagram is filled with this kind of stuff. You can find hashtag hygge everywhere. It's really interesting. So I figure since we're all trapped inside, maybe it'd be cool to like learn 3 little ways that you can help with your home hygge. So firstly is there are like tenets of it. And the main one is, I'll come to last, but it's conversation. So we'll talk more about that in a minute. But there are ways that you can just like tweak your home to add hygge to your home. So one of those is warmer light. So maybe people know this because we're with some space friendly nerds, but like, what would you say, what is the color temperature of sunshine?
It's about 6,500 degrees Celsius.
Nailed it. Yeah. And so 6,500 is considered quite cool light, right? It's more whitish, more bluish. And so if you make your light more warmish, like a 3,500 Kelvin, you're going to make yourself feel more cozy. You're going to think of it in a kind of literally a warmer way, because like candle lights and sunsets, that's like 1850 Kelvin. So if you kind of split the difference, you get this warmer light. Your brain actually reacts to it, and you think of things in a warmer way. And all of the research that I did on this, they kept coming back to like, when we feel warm or when we think of things as warm, we react more friendly, more open, and more social. And brain regions that indicate physical warmth also underpin how we feel when we think of social warmth. We literally don't necessarily discern between the two in a very well. So fMRI studies found when you're holding cold things, you actually are more judgy, more harshly judging people when they're asked in studies. So the main thing is use a warmer light. Make sure that your home is at a warmer temperature or that you're keeping yourself warmer. You'll be more open to social interaction and maybe judge others more harshly. And then also the third thing is like, have good conversations with people. You cannot, based on talking to Rebecca, she was like, you cannot force hygge. It just happens. Think about that time when you were talking to like, I don't know, your really best friend, whether that's like a family member or like somebody that you've met out in the world. And like, you just had a really nice conversation and you still think about that time and where you were probably matters. Maybe you're at your favorite bar. Maybe you're at your house. Maybe you're at their house. Maybe you're with a group of people or at a park. All of those things can be hygge. It's not just like a snowy cabin in the woods. And I think that's really cool. It's really a feeling that you get and that it doesn't go away. It kind of sticks around, but you could ruin it if you bring it up, which I thought was really funny. She's like, yeah, but you can ruin it. So don't try and force it too much. Yeah, it was neat. So hygge.
Awesome. I like the idea that that's an emergent property of the universe. And that's what's going to break the standard model of physics. Oh, we should have been just thinking about it in terms of warmth.
We did have a couple questions really quick before we start to wrap up. Phil, Assignment Universe wanted to know if you were planning the Dark Sky Dude Ranch.
Oh, that's complicated. My wife and I run a science vacation company called Science Getaways, and we take people to usually ranches in Colorado, although we've been to other places. And it's like a vacation you want to go on, but we do stargazing and geology hikes and everything. And we have 2 of them planned for this summer. Whoever asked this, thank you. Your check's in the mail. And we don't know yet. You know, there are a lot of things that are going on, like in the next couple of weeks for people that are obviously you're going to have to cancel. But our next one is in June. And I think that is, it puts us in a very nebulous place. Like, what do you do? And I was just talking about this with my wife just a couple hours ago, because I've got some other things that I was going to be doing in a couple of weeks, and those are gone, right? Those were paying gigs. Those are dead. So that's out of the question. But what about this thing I'm supposed to be doing in September? It's like, I can't even think that far ahead right now. You know, we're still on this exponential curve going up. So, you know, at some point that's going to flatten out and drop, but I don't think anybody knows when. So right now we're just sitting on it. We're saying we're not going to worry about it right now. As the time gets closer, we'll have a better idea of what things are going to be like.
On the positive side of that, I think while we're going through this, and you're right, we don't know when we're going to emerge from it. I think once we do come out of it, there's going to be an explosion of social closeting. And there's going to be this pent up demand for people to get out and do stuff. And so I think once we see signs that we're actually coming around the corner, which we're not at this point, I think there's going to be a strong motivation, and people are going to come out in droves, at least I hope, in ways that we haven't seen for a while. So I'm hopeful that it will happen.
That would be nice.
Yeah, I agree. I'm holding that kind of like as my little moment for the future, is like, once this is all over and we can all go outside again. So real brief, I was at work this weekend with a shoot that somebody canceled because they couldn't leave because of travel bans. They couldn't make it. And so they called me at the last minute because I happened to be in town, and I went and helped out. And part of the shoot, we had to congratulate someone and I had to shake their hand. And it was like, I realized it was the first time I had touched a stranger in like a week. And it was very weird. And hopefully we're all outside just being like, hey, hi, how's it going? Nice to see you. You know, just like everybody will, I hope, feel a little more kind of recharged by this experience.
I'm making this stick. This is the new this is the new greeting that we go with, because it comes with live long and prosper. Like, what better message for right now?
No, that's really good. Did you come up with that yourself?
No, it's an old Jewish blessing.
Yeah, I know. I'm Jewish.
That was the. Never mind.
Yeah, no, we're on the same page. We're good.
Several
did you
levels, I
Hear Nimoy
think,
talk about that too.
Sorry?
Did you hear Leonard Nimoy talk about that too?
Yeah.
Yeah, me too. I went to that Star Trek convention.
Oh, nice. No, I saw a video of it later. I was not at the convention.
Let's go around and do some plugs. Phil, why don't you start?
Read my blog. It's I'm on Twitter, Bad Astronomy or Bad Astronomer. Sorry, my website on sci-fi.com is Bad Astronomy, and I do have a weekly newsletter that's free on Mondays. That's badastronomy.substack.com, and I have one for paid subscribers on Thursdays.
Adam.
Buy my book, What is Real? The Unfinished Quest for the Meaning of Quantum Physics. I do not have a copy to hand, but Kishore does. It is available wherever fine books are sold, which, yeah, maybe don't go out and get it, but you can order it. You can order it from IndieBound or Amazon or anywhere else.
Ebook too.
Yeah, ebook as well, and audiobook.
Your library.
Yeah,
Our libraries are closed. Okay.
Yeah.
But we actually want you to buy it because that's.
Yes, I would prefer that you get it from a bookstore, but yeah, if you can get an ebook from the library, that works too. And yeah, I'm on Twitter and Instagram as Freelance Astro. Yeah, and I think that's all I got.
Ashley.
Listen to my podcast. It's Curiosity Daily. It's 5 days a week, about 10 minutes. And actually, a lot of people love to put it on their Amazon Alexa flash briefing because it's short enough. So you can just get science facts in the morning instead of scary news. I'm at Smashly Hamer on Twitter and Instagram. Yeah, so follow me. And my birthday's on Friday.
Happy birthday.
Thank you. Yay, it's such a good celebration time, isn't it?
And Trace, can you promote like the channel that everyone is watching this on?
You're currently watching on Una Dos of Trace, a channel where I make videos every other week about sciencey stuff. The most recent one I actually did was a studio tour, so not actually about sciencey stuff, but I've got a really cool one coming up that I think people will like about science experiments you can do at home while you're trapped inside.
Nice.
Awesome. I'm Science Quiche on Twitter. You shouldn't follow me on Twitter, but I'm really enjoying having these like chats with different science communicators. If you enjoy it too, let us know. Let us know who you'd like to see, because we're trying to rotate so you get this feeling of diversity in the community. Some days we're going to dive deep into what's happening in the world. Other days, like today, we're going to kind of take a step back as a relief from what's happening. But my main message is what Phil said a while ago, which is try to get into everyone else's shoes right now, because I think empathy is such a powerful tool in this time of social distancing. It's the thing that's going to keep us together as we're going through some really tough times. And so with that, I'll just say thanks for watching. Take care of each other and be kind.
Live long and prosper. Bye, guys.
Bye.